All right, we are online. This is Politics NY with Not Sky. I am Alex Mitchell. Welcome to Schneps Media's debate for District 3, the City Council race. I am joined with Politics NY editor-in-chief Stephen Witt and all of the
joining us,
of course, and you got me on that. All the esteemed candidates. Now let's go around the room in alphabetical order. And everyone, if you'd like to do what we call an elevator pitch for who you are, what your platform is, why you're running, all of that fun stuff. So, Eric, let's start with you, please. Oh, and if everyone else can mute in the meantime.
Well, thanks so much, Alex. And hello, everyone. My name's Eric Botcher, and I'm running for city council because I've devoted most of my adult life to public service. And right now, our city is in crisis. And it's a city that saved my life, really. I came from a very small town in the Adirondack Mountains where, like many LGBTQ people, I struggled a lot. But when I came to New York City, I found a place where I could be myself. And it's a city that has given me so much. So I made the decision to devote myself to public service, working for the last 11 years in city and state government, in the governor's office, and for the last 6 years as chief of staff to Speaker Corey Johnson, and as an activist for tenants, seniors, historic preservation, and in the resistance to the Trump agenda. And our campaign is being supported by hundreds of community leaders around Council District 3 because they know that I'm ready to lead on day one. Next year is going to be a make or break year for the city. But I believe that with the right leadership, we can have one of the best decades in the city's history, but only if we make the right decisions with the right leadership.
Thank you, Eric. Now let's move on to Leslie, please.
Mute. Go to someone else. We'll go back to Leslie.
I got it. Sorry about that. I apologize.
Okay.
Thanks. So I've been a resident of Hell's Kitchen for 17 years, living in the same pre-war apartment. Now I'm here with my husband, our 8-year-old daughter, Cecilia, and our dog, Bailey. I'm a third-generation New Yorker. I'm running as a mother, a wife, a daughter to small business owners, a granddaughter to hardworking immigrants, a reporter, an organizer, and a longtime resident. Really, I'm running because I love my community and my neighbors. All of my community service has been as a volunteer. I'm an executive member of our community board. I serve on the Hudson River Park Trust Task Force for Greener Open Spaces, and I worked at our local women and children's shelter. Previous to that, I was an investigative reporter and a sports reporter for 20 years. And I didn't imagine I would ever seek public office, but when COVID came along, I really saw the collective failure of government at every level to take care of all these people who make up my neighborhood. Let's see, the small business owners, the educators, the NYCHA residents, the elderly, the women who've had to leave the workforce because they've had to take care of a child or older relative during COVID. So this tragedy exposed the cracks that already existed in the system. And we've had years of leadership, regardless of whether they said the right things in public, in private, lack the political will to do the hard work to fix it. So I'm running to change that. And I believe our community is resilient and I want to turn ideas into action.
Thank you, Leslie. Now, Phil on.
Hi, thank you. My name is Phelan Fitzpatrick. I'm a New Yorker that's been working and living in my community for over 20 years. I'm a gay single dad. I have a beautiful young daughter named Artemis. I'm someone who takes great pride in my community, in my neighbors and my fellow New Yorkers. I know what it takes to run a successful business, to manage a budget, to employ New Yorkers, and to take care of employees. And I know what customer service is. And my sense of providing for my employees, my customers, my future constituents, empowers me with a strong sense of what it means to be a public servant. And I believe in public service. I believe that all New Yorkers and citizens generally, no matter what our backgrounds are, what our professions are, our experience can apply our sense of commitment to the community and run to represent the needs of working people in New York City. And I'm running because when you feel that representatives you've elected don't respect you, don't share your values, and are making decisions that affect your life, then not only is it your time to get involved, but really it's your responsibility. Looking forward to fielding your questions. Excited to be here.
Thank you. And Marnie.
Hi, my name is Marnie Halassa. I'm a lawyer, community activist, and figure skating coach. I have lived in Chelsea for 27 years. My entree into politics began 10 years ago when I protested with Occupy Wall Street. But when I ran for council in 2017 and pushed Corey Johnson on the Small Business Job Survival Act, I realized that even an ordinary person can push an elected official in the right direction when you are a political outsider who can tell the truth, which I believe is one of the most powerful influences we regular citizens have. And my record has been one of success, fighting alongside NYCHA tenants to stop the demolition of their homes, fighting for figure skating coaches to have a fair contract in the workplace, pushing policies that small businesses need affordable and renewable leases, and joining other activists who fight daily against the developers and a complicit city council who acquiesce to the big real estate lobby pricing New Yorkers out of their homes. I am running to take the city in a completely different direction, to create a New York for New Yorkers, where we will stop harmful development, stop the demolition of historical buildings, and where the community will have final say in land use decisions. If I get elected, that will be my priority, and I would be honored if voters will give me that chance.
Thank you. And Alita.
Hi, thank you. So I have also devoted my life to community service. I have served for the past 5 years as elected tenants association president in my building with 500 tenants, and for them, I have advocated and fought to in their homes with developers and landlords. I have developed for seniors and for children. I have been there for people who are sick. I have myself experienced a health crisis and live without insurance. So I want to be an advocate for all of this community, for all the people who felt they have not had a voice at the table. I want to be that voice. I'm a mom of a public school child, and I see the failures that our schools have had to experience because of lack of political will. I see my community overrun with a failure to help homeless people, a failure to help mitigate crime in our city since the COVID crisis has started. And I see parents throwing their hands up in the air, wondering how it is we're gonna go into this summer the way that things are going. And we've been neglected. And I wanna be there to make sure this never happens again and to figure out how we can audit and reallocate and make these systems work for everyone.
Thank you. And we're going to close out with you, Arthur.
Sorry.
There you go.
My name is Arthur Schwartz. I am a 40-year resident of Greenwich Village. I've been a civil rights and labor lawyer for 42 years. I'm a parent of 4 kids, aged 15 to 33, in a wonderful marriage. I've been the district leader or State Democratic Party committee member from Greenwich Village and Soho since 1995. I spent 24 years on Community Board 2. I was a founder of Friends of Hudson River Park. And since I'm 15 years old, I've been a fighter. And I'm somebody who doesn't talk about what I'm gonna do. I'm doing it every day. Since recently, since this campaign started, the Transit Authority decided that they were going to not restore the service on the F and the C line. So I went to court for the Fulton Houses Tenants Association and got an injunction to force them to restore the service on the F and the C line. The Transit Authority announced they were going to pull station agents from the booths that keep some small modicum of safety when you get into the subway. I went to court for Congressman Espaillat and got an injunction to stop that. I went to a meeting of the Fulton Houses Tenants Association and tenants started complaining about not having gas. I went to court and I got an order last week, not only ordering the authority to restore the gas, but also to clean up the rats and the garbage outside the building. I've been doing this. This is what I've been doing for 42 years. I fight the powers that be, a famous song, and I don't talk about I don't hesitate. I'm not afraid of, I'm not part of the establishment, although, I'm the law chair for the Democratic Party. I'm also someone who supported Bernie, who supported Cynthia Nixon, who supported Jumaane Williams, who supported Barack Obama when nobody in New York City was supporting Barack. Everyone was on Hillary's bandwagon. I'm a doer. I'm a fighter. I'm not afraid of taking on forces that be. And I think that that's what we're going to need as we come out of this pandemic. And we have a government that's barely functioned for the last, year and a half since the pandemic started. So I want to be there to represent my neighbors, to represent this district, and to fight to make it a much better place to live.
All right. Thank you all so much for the wonderful introductions. And what I'm about to say, I trust you all know this, but to anybody who has joined, and we have a lot of people viewing right now. So shout out to all of you who are passionate about New York, about politics, about making this year a lot better than the last one. This is a debate for New York City Council District 3, which encompasses the neighborhoods of, which again, I'm sure that the candidates know this, Chelsea, Hell's Kitchen, Greenwich Village, West Soho, Hudson Square, Times Square, the Garment District, Flatiron, and some of the Upper West Side. Now, we had some other questions we were considering asking, but after the big news today, I think that this really takes the cake, if you will. It looks like the city could be opening up into its fullest capacity as early as May 19th. Maybe it'll take a little longer, maybe a little less, but and public transit, full subway service is coming back on the 17th. We're going to go in a reverse alphabetical order now, just to make everything kind of equal, even, fair, however you want to put it. I'm tired. It's been a long day. If I don't sound like I'm making sense when I speak, but what are the most urgent priorities for your district when it comes to the city reopening? Arthur.
All right. Well, I think that the most urgent priority that we have in our district is to get small businesses functioning. I think that we need to enact commercial rent control. I think that we need to make sure that all small businesses can take advantage of the billions of dollars that the state legislature just allocated that may help them, but small businesses are a very funny entity. The second thing I think we need to do is deal with getting people back onto mass transit, because although they're going to open it 24 hours a day, people are afraid to take mass transit, and it's a lot too expensive. One of my slogans is the fares are too damn high. We need to lower the fares in the transit authority. The third thing we need to do is address the affordable housing crisis. Our district has had more luxury development under Corey Johnson than the entire rest of the city combined. We need to build affordable housing. We need to take capital money, put it into our district, not into building towers around Penn Station and towers around Port Authority, but to put that money into building housing or repurposing existing office space and commercial space that isn't going to be used into housing, so that people, including those who are stuck into homeless shelters all over the northern part of our district, back into places where they can live.
Thank you. And Alita.
I may have answered this differently a couple days ago, but crime is out of control. Just last night in front of my building, a woman was attacked and hit in the head with a hammer. And this is happening every night in Hell's Kitchen anyway. So we need to figure out how to work with the police in a way that's reasonable, a way that does not violate the civil rights of a large majority of our population. So that's something that I'm extremely committed to, and something that I've been working on since this summer, dealing with the NCOs in our local precincts. We bring them into our building to speak with residents and to get to know them. I think we need community policing. We need police that are dedicated and that have roots in our community, not that are coming from other islands, that have no connection to the community, because people need to feel safe. I need to know that my 78-year-old mother is safe walking down the street right now. We also have an insane mental health crisis, use the double entendre, but health is an issue across the board, but mental health is a disaster. Also for our children, we need to go into September with social workers and nurses and mental health professionals in our schools. We had a suicide in our building this past holiday season, and it was a child. It was a 15-year-old boy. This is a very serious issue that I'm also very passionate about and frightened for my child, who's 7 years old and has been sitting in a remote online class for this past year, and it's completely ridiculous. We need to, of course, help small businesses. My father is a restaurant owner, and they've only just recently opened back up. And we need to do this all very carefully because COVID is still very real. I am fully vaccinated, and I've just contracted COVID. So we cannot just run around without our masks on the way everybody thinks we can. I've been extremely ill. It has not been fun. I'm here today because this is very important for me to be involved, but I will tell you, quite frankly, I'm holding on tightly and I'm loaded up on Tylenol. But we need the streets to be safe so that the arts can reopen, the theaters can reopen, and that tourists will come back and not be scared to do so.
Oh, Steve is that is our timekeeper right there.
I see you waving, so I don't want to eat up.
It was partly, I'm in the office and the woman came to take the garbage.
We would like, of course, we want to engage with your commentary as much as possible. Also, keep in mind that if we cut you off, it's nothing personal. We just want to get in as much discussion as we can, but we really would like to let you all say your piece as much as we can. So we're going to try to be loose with the time, but if we need to, again, it's nothing personal. We'll try to make it up for you later. And now, Marnie, let's go to you.
Okay. Oh, let's see if I can. Okay. Well, one of my priorities would be is to really solve the homelessness crisis. I believe we have an obligation as human beings to other human beings. And one thing, like many of the candidates say, that we need to obviously repurpose a lot of like empty buildings in our district for deeply affordable housing. I think that's like super important. I hear that when the city opens up, there's talk that to send the homeless back to the congregate shelters. My campaign has actually visited the homeless. We give them hand sanitizers and masks, and they don't want to go back to the congregate shelters. I think this is the time where we actually could solve the homelessness crisis because there is such vacant space in the district. I think that's super important. Also, I believe that we need to save the small businesses, because we save the small businesses, we also save the jobs. If we don't save the small businesses, we are not going to have a city to live in. So I think that's very important. We need to give them substantial rent relief. I know there's a federal government has a package, but I think the city and state also need to act and give them, substantial rent relief. Also, the Small Business Job Survival Act, I've been pushing that for the last 4 years. Business owners need an affordable and renewable lease, a long-term lease. That's very important. And in general, like other candidates are saying, like luxury development is like decimating our district. That is the number one thing when I talk to voters, and especially seniors, they all remember and they all are completely against luxury development. I am against Corey Johnson's master rezoning plan that gives final say to the mayor. If I'm elected, I would like to hold city council hearings to figure out how can the community have final say in land use decisions. So it's not just the community board, but it's residents. And that's what I believe. I think development is very, very important, and the community needs final say.
Okay, and Phelan.
I think economic recovery in District 3 would probably be my number one. I've been a small business operator in New York City and District 3 for the past 16 years. And this past year, I lost my store in Chelsea because of a predatory landlord and, ever raising rent increases. Before the pandemic, I was paying $39,000 a month. Not to mention the real estate taxes that were always rising every single year on top of that. We're really pleased with the increased wealth tax rates proposed for New York State. The tax on the uber rich helps our city, it helps our district make the steps towards much needed development. And revenue from these taxes increases will help small business recovery in District 3, which we desperately need. We just need to make sure that the money is going where it's supposed to be going, because big business has only gotten bigger throughout the pandemic. While smaller businesses have really suffered at the hands of poor leadership and nepotism. And so, I think getting the SBJSA passed, the Small Business Job Survival Act, is really necessary. But I also understand the importance of safe streets. You know, I have a 4-year-old daughter. I understand that, you know, crime has gotten a little out of control, but I'm also a person of color, and I understand the need for equal protection under the law. As a person of color, I think that it's something that this district hasn't had in a really long time. And those would be my biggest priorities, other than, you know, the environment. And I think that all these plans here in New York City, you know, to revitalize the environment and to make sure that New York City is green is a great idea. You know, but before we can start talking about solar paneling every affordable housing building in the next 10 years, we have to build them, and we have to remind ourselves that we couldn't even fix the HVAC units in our schools, in our school buildings, so that teachers and students could go back to school in the first place. So we have a lot of work to do, and I'm excited to be a part of that.
Thank you. And I believe that when it came to alphabetical order at the beginning, there may have been a slight technical malfunction, so we will rectify that right now. Eric, then Leslie. Leslie, my apologies. I'm only a writer. What would I know about spelling?
Yeah, I want to agree with a lot of what Phelan and Alita said. We could declare our city open, but we need to get office workers to come back. We need tourists to come back. We need to address the issues that are going to keep a lot of people away, like public safety and quality of life issues. And to me, one of the most important things is to get the social service programs up and running again. The day programs that provide programming for people with substance use issues, the soup kitchens, Xavier Soup Kitchen, Holy Apostles Soup Kitchen, where people would spend several hours during the day and get connected to services. The mental health programs that serve people with mental health challenges. And we have to get these programs up and running, because over the last year, all these programs have been closed. So a lot of the folks who depend on these programs for services have basically been left to their own devices, and, you know, remote programming doesn't work for all these programs. So I know the programs in this district, and I know their leadership, and I know what their needs are going to be. And beyond this year, on January 1 next year, they're going to need a lot of assistance, and they're going to need a lot in terms of funding from a new mayoral administration who quite possibly will not be familiar with any of them. So I'm going to be prepared to advocate for them and fight for them on day one, and make sure that we get them up and running and in full operation. That will help our city immensely in our recovery.
Thank you. And now Leslie.
Yeah, so my COVID recovery, actually, there's a question that we're asked at all the forums. And it said, they ask, what is your priority? When you become city council, what is your priority? And mine has always been consistent. I have said the same answer time and time again. It is COVID recovery. That is my priority. And so before we go into all the steps for COVID recovery, first we have to get everyone fully vaccinated. And we're actually doing quite well in New York. But we have to get the mobile units out. We have to go to the people who aren't going to the centers. And then we also have to educate the people who are a little afraid of maybe getting vaccinated. So I think that's what we have to do first, because a full recovery is going to equal a full vaccination. So now let's go into the different steps that I think are important. And like everyone said, businesses. Our small businesses and our arts community and our restaurants. So those three are so inextricably tied to our district. And I think it's obviously every district has their businesses, but ours is specifically tied to these three because we have lost all the foot traffic from Times Square and Broadway. We have lost all the tourists, and that foot traffic put in a lot of economy and a lot of dollars into our district. So that's what we have to concentrate on getting back. Now I'm going to go on to what I agree with Alita. Education. We need a comprehensive plan to get back in September. It has been a year and we still don't. Parents are still nervous that their kids are not gonna go back full time. And that's not even promised yet. And so we can open all the businesses we want, but if we do, if the parents still have to stay at home with the kids, what's going to happen, right? So, and this is, by the way, this affected especially women in the workforce, and especially women of color, because they're over, I believe 60% are the breadwinners in their family. So they had to leave a job. And I think it's very important to open our senior centers. We have to get our senior centers open safely and to the fully vaccinated. These senior centers were some of the only social interaction and educational interaction our aged population has. And these are the ones that are most affected because they have been inside, pretty much boarded up, not talking to anybody. These are the ones that need that interaction. And yes, of course, quality of life, especially in the northern part of our district. I know it's a little different with Hell's Kitchen, Chelsea, Greenwich Village, West Village. But I think once we bring back the foot traffic, once we bring back the economic element, I think the quality of life will naturally go with that.
Okay, thank you all. We are off to a great and very intellectual start here. Stephen, before we move forward, was there something that you wanted to prompt?
Yes, and some of you have already addressed this. There was a recent shooting of a tourist in Times Square. There was also a brutal assault of an Asian woman in Hell's Kitchen. And coupled with the state, they just repealed, they call it the walking while trans law, which has to do with stopping loitering for the purpose of prostitution, which has always kind of affected Times Square with its tourist base. And you also have Port Authority. How would you like to see Times Square and that Port Authority Hell's Kitchen hub better policed and handled? I mean, so
how are we doing the order this time? That's a great question that you're responsible for.
Let's start with Eric, because I don't remember Eric from before.
Sure.
So I don't support spending less money on public safety. What I do favor is spending money on other tools in addition to policing. And we have to use all the tools in our toolbox to address public safety issues like teen programs, substance use programs, mental health programs. Our answer for a very long time was to throw policing at these problems. But I've seen firsthand that we can't police our way out of a lot of these public safety issues that are happening. Yes, we need on the ground community policing, beat cops on foot, but we also need to adequately fund a lot of these programs that have not been funded adequately for a long time, and they really help improve public safety a lot. And it's something that we've got to do quickly, because like I said, a lot of people have left the city. We need them to come back. A lot of office workers are not coming into work. They're choosing to work remotely. We need them to come back. We need our tourists to come back. It's a very important issue.
Thank you. Marnie, I'm just doing it random. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yes. What I believe about the NYPD, I think it needs to be completely restructured and transformed into a public safety agency. A lot of people are talking about it. So many candidates are talking about it now that I feel like hopefully it will happen. But, you take the police out of traffic, out of homeless outreach, minor disputes, schools, you eliminate the vice squad. I also agree with a lot of candidates here talking about public safety officers, on the beat, more community policing. I believe policing should be limited to public safety only. People are also talking about having mental health crisis professionals. They would be the people, if somebody had like a mental health episode on the street, social workers, mental health professionals would actually attend to that. But in terms of what happened with the Filipino woman, who was assaulted, I think and actually the person who assaulted her stays in the hotel, and I actually know some of the homeless guys at that hotel, and what they tell me is that individual, like nobody ever knew he had any kind of he seemed completely normal. So I do believe that if a lot of the people that are staying in the hotels, they get out of prison, they do their time, they do deserve a second chance, but the city and the state, they drop them in the hotel, and there's not that. So I believe there definitely needs to be much more supervision and much more funding. So if they need it, they'll be able to. The city and the state will actually be able to see what's exactly happening. But again, I'm sorry, my mind.
Thank you. It's all right. Let's move on.
Yeah.
We'll go to Leslie.
Sure. The areas you mentioned actually have been, even pre-COVID, areas that have been problem areas. But let me go back a little. We have seen it, as we talked about in the previous question, an uptick in crime and criminal activity, particularly in the Hell's Kitchen area, due to there have been temporary shelters that have been moved in, and that's not the problem. The problem's not the temporary shelters. I don't know if anyone really knows this or pays attention, but even pre-COVID, our neighborhood had one of the densest permanent shelters in all of Manhattan, and everyone was fine. There was no rise in crime. Everyone lived homogeneously. Everyone lived together, and I say that very lovingly. And that's because there's a linchpin to this. It's not the homeless population. It is the social services that go with it. Social services are so important. And this is such a great example. So when people who are in need, when people who have dependencies, either they're drug dependent or they need mental health services, when they don't get the services they need and they deserve, then that's when the system breaks down. That's when we're seeing these upticks in crime. And it's not even the temporary homeless population. It's the people who come in and prey upon them. So that is also an uptick in our neighborhoods. So I am a very big proponent, going back to the NYPD, where you taught your question was, of taking the NYPD should just be public safety. We have to take the social services element out of the NYPD and put them into the right hands to create that balance.
Thank you. Arthur, and then Felon. Sorry, I say it wrong.
Phelan
I'm sorry.
Phelan Fitzpatrick.
Between Phelan and Alita, we have real problems with Eric and Arthur are really easy. So first of all, I think that the uptick in crime has a lot to do with the lack of people on the street, right? The more people return to the streets, the less crime we're going to see, because it's just a matter. During the darkest days of COVID, I remember a year ago, nobody was wandering the streets except crazy people, right? And people who would prey on the few people that were walking down the street, most of whom were essential workers. So getting people back on the streets is a key part of it. But second is, to me, the biggest failure of the New York City Police Department is, in terms of safety, is the fact that we don't have beat cops anymore. I mean, we have a few. I had a really interesting conversation. I was up at West Harlem Houses yesterday, which is a NYCHA development, and the NCO there, he never sits in a car. He walks around, he knows everybody. He knows all the tenants. He knows all the local storekeepers. He knows all the people, and he knows who all the drug dealers are, and he knows all the troublemakers are. Believe it or not, back in Rudy Giuliani's day, we actually had community policing that was community policing, which is where the cops walk the beat. Bill Bratton put them in, and we need to go back to that. There are too many cops sitting in cars and not interacting with everybody on the street and making their presence known. I think if we had more cops doing that, even in Times Square, we'd be a lot safer. Now, I disagree with Eric a lot. The NYPD has a overly bloated budget. And what we should do is we could take $1 billion out of, just about $500 million out of the NYPD budget and build a mental health corps that could address the mental health issues that cops aren't trained to deal with, to do the interventions that are needed, to work with homeless people. And as part of that, we could also use, I've been working with people in the Midtown South Police Community Council on a proposal to use, there are 200 or more unused beds at Beth Israel Hospital. Let's repurpose them as mental health beds, and let's utilize some of the money. Beth Israel would want money to keep them going. Let's utilize some of that NYPD money for cops that aren't needed to do mental health work, to do traffic stops, to do traffic enforcement, to do traffic accident, and let's put it into that. Those are concrete things that we could do to make the city safer.
Thank you, Arthur. Phelan.
I know a thing or two about hate crimes. My father was Black and openly gay his entire life. And in 2019, my father, actually the day before my 19th birthday, my father left me a message, wishing me happy birthday, said he was going to meet some friends. He was sorry he didn't catch me. And he was targeted and murdered outside of a gay bar in Akron, Ohio. This has affected me my entire life. I have a 4-year-old daughter. I know how important, community safety is. But that has nothing to do with police reform. And I think by holding police accountable, we can properly identify the reporting of hate crimes, the mapping and tracking of hate crimes in the city and in our district, non-designated offenses and incidents to see trends, prevent future events, not to mention follow-up and support for victims, their families, and success in developing rehabilitation and prevention programs with government, nonprofit, and faith communities, I think. But you can't do that with bloated police budgets. Arthur's right. And to answer your second question, policies that have been long withstanding, providing safe and respectful treatment for transgender, gender non-binary, and intersex people in the manner appropriate to the person's gender, identity, and or expression, especially when it comes to policing and employment. And I think also developing a comprehensive linguistic justice plan that ensures accessibility to non-English speaking community members, and transparent data and reporting of data in District 3 about crime.
Thank you. And Alita.
So I grew up right Port Authority, what you were asking about. I'm sorry, there's some feedback. Am I coming in okay?
Yeah, it's a little bit.
Let's all mute out of an abundance of caution.
Except for Alita.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Much better.
Okay, so I grew up right here in Hell's Kitchen, and I used to walk through Times Square to get to the subway so I could go to school every morning. And that was a long, I won't tell you how long ago it was, but there were still XXX rated movie theaters and pimps asking me if I needed work. So I remember what it was like before, in the before. And no, I don't want to see that happen again. I think that Port Authority is a huge, enormous space. And it was interesting that you mentioned what should we do around there? Why can't we have facilities right there in Port Authority for people, a health clinic, a mental health clinic? But I think honestly, a lot of this isn't rocket science. Right now, we have absolutely no program for recent released parolees to come out into the street. They are just being placed into shelters or hotels. That makes no sense, especially if you've had a mental health issue while in prison. You've been receiving psychiatric care, including meds, which when you're released, you are no longer able to receive. Going into a congregate setting is not a place for a person with schizophrenia. And that's, I think, why we see many people living on the street. It's terrifying to have that kind of experience as a schizophrenic person in a congregate setting. The overstimulation is impossible to bear. So, I think that the mayor has made some sweeping new laws that, yes, in a perfect world, bail reform, no, we don't want, kids getting arrested for stealing backpacks and staying in Rikers Island for years on end. This makes no sense. But having 3-4 time violent criminals being not held and sent back into the street immediately, so that the cops look at us and say, well, what's the point in arresting them? I mean, this makes no sense. So until we have the infrastructure completely figured out and fully funded, the social workers, I mean, we have Breaking Ground is meant to be the intermediary for the homeless, but it's taking them 200 interactions with the homeless person before that person accepts help to go in. That, to me, this is obviously a program that needs to be revisited and redesigned. So the programs that we have ready aren't ready for prime time, and they're not ready for these new laws. And the cops have, I think there's a combination of them feeling as if their hands are tied, and also feeling like, well, you don't want us here, so they're not doing what they need to be doing. And that needs to stop, because they're still getting paid. In my opinion, you still have a job. I think that the streets are full of people, guys. It's not vacant town out here. I walk down the street and with, restaurants, open on the streets, there's people everywhere. It's hard to get down the street in the middle of the day. So to say that it's, post-COVID, we're going to have more people and everything's going to be okay, I think that's a little bit imaginary, because right now there are people everywhere. But I think that we really need some common sense, and we need some people at the table that are studying trends and figuring out how best to implement these changes in a way that's going to be actually helpful, and not have everybody doing this and just confused about who's in charge.
Thank you. Alex, you have a question?
Yes, I do. So now I think that it's time to get into the little bit more human fun element of tonight's proceedings. So we're going into what we call kind of the lightning round. We like to keep it a little quicker, a little bit less formal, and to be perfectly honest, just a little bit more fun. I think we could all use something like that. So we've prepared a couple of questions, and we're going to kind of break this into 2 segments. And the first one, Steve, I'm actually going to rephrase something that you asked in the District 1 debate. And that is, where is a spot in your district that is just almost your home away from home, or just like that space you like to go to, whether it be a nice day or somewhere you like to just go eat at, or just walk around, or do whatever. The one thing I'm not prepared for, though, is what order we're going in. Steve, you want to help me with that?
Boy, I'm so...
This is more confusing than it looks, I promise.
Arthur first, I know. Arthur.
Muted.
Okay, I was going to say use first names, and I have an A.
Oh,
Hudson River Park, it's a park that I helped create. It's so beautiful, looking at the water, being able to gaze at the water, sit under trees, sit on the grass, enjoy my neighbors, but be able to social distance.
thank you. Leslie.
I'm going to go with Hudson River Park as well. I'm the environmentalist, so I am going to go with specifically Pier 96, free kayaking. I recommend it highly.
Phelan.
This full-time dad, I'm also a full-time business operator, and I'm running for city council. I'd love to say that I've spent enough time with my daughter over the past year, but I really haven't. And during the weekends, any spare time, we spend our time at Bleecker Street Playground in the West Village. We could stay there for hours.
I love that playground myself. Alita.
We were just at Bleecker Street Playground this weekend before I found out it. The pier, I went there as a child with my dad all the time. It was not what it is today, but it was fun for me because you could climb on things and get real close to the Now it's like this beautiful space of grass and trees and fountains, and my son loves it there. So definitely the pier.
Marnie?
So I love this place to eat called Kashmir 9. It's like a Pakistani restaurant. Like I've been going there for like 27 years. It's been in existence since I've been here in New York. It has like this like naan bread as big as a spaceship. The people are super nice, and I've been going there for like almost 30 years. So yeah, it's great food.
And Eric.
So a lot of folks don't realize how big Council District 3 is. It actually goes up to Columbus Circle, almost in Central Park. On a beautiful day, there's nowhere I love more than being in Central Park in that area. Our parks are the great equalizer where everyone comes. It's young, old, rich, poor, people of all different backgrounds, just enjoying the city and enjoying each other, dancing together, just enjoying our wonderful parks. And on a gorgeous day, there's nowhere I enjoy more.
Excellent. All right, next question, Alex.
Going off that, whenever the city does fully reopen, and I'm talking fully reopen, like this darn pandemic never happened, what is one notorious tourist activity you will shamelessly do in the city?
Oh, I get to pick the people again?
You certainly do.
Oh, Alita first.
Go to a Broadway show.
I second that. You can get me second. I was Broadway show.
Okay.
Are we all in agreement about a Broadway show? Because I would love to
Yes.
hear what are
Yeah.
some of the favorite shows everybody's seen.
I've had to see Lion King like 4 times. My daughter's obsessed.
Okay, we have Lion King at 4. What else do we have now?
I loved Wicked. I loved it.
I would go to see Hamilton for the third time.
Yeah.
Hamilton for 3. Lion King still leads it.
I had to do
Anybody-
Frozen with my 8-year-old, but Bruce Springsteen was great. And by the way, there is, if you go online, they have that. If anyone has done this, the free tickets, or it's like discounted tickets. I kept doing it, and then you get like a $10 ticket if you can go that day. You can just head over. So I keep getting discounted tickets, and I keep heading over.
Eric, you've been quiet.
Yeah, I love the idea of seeing the Disney shows again. Anything in a big theater with lots of people. I'm really looking forward to it.
I was looking forward to West Side Story. I never got to see Hamilton. My brother is a sound designer in the Broadway shows, so I'm always trying to sneak in with him.
Well, this was nice. It's glad that we all have something that we can all come together on. And now we're going to move into the second, I guess, phase, if you will, of the lightning round. And what this is going to be, and we do welcome debate and discussion on some of these questions if it's needed, but just respond to us with an emotive, either yes, no, I agree with this, I don't agree with this, and we encourage you to have some fun with your answers. Let me just go to my paper. And the first question that I have is, when the Houston Astros return to Yankee Stadium tomorrow evening, should they be booed?
Yes, especially Miles Straw.
Ooh, okay. All right.
It's
We
a
have
sports
one.
reporter, if ever there was one.
We have one strongly booed. Who else agrees on this?
Sure.
I'd
I'm a big-
Come on, guys, they're cheaters.
Not a lot of sports
Yeah.
fans here.
I don't.
I'm
I
a
really-
Met. Listen, I have to tell you, I'm a Met fan, so I've been watching the Phillies games and not the Yankee games. So I could talk about what went on with with Dominic Smith the other night if you want at length, but I don't know a lot of what's going on between the Yankees and the Astros.
Well, it's the reason Carlos Beltran is not the Mets manager. It has a little bit to do with that.
I don't mean to perpetuate gay stereotypes, but I really have no idea about sports or even what you're talking about. Sorry. Hope that doesn't lose me any votes right now. But
Oh, that's fine.
Think of it more of, do you support that New York hates the Houston Astros? Not so much
Because
as
Alex is a sports fan.
I think hate is a
sports
strong word.
reporter.
Let me ask you this question. I'll just throw it out there. In Washington Square Park, when you go there, you usually sit in a circle or a bench to the side, or do you like to hang out by the fountain?
My son goes to the fountain, so I chase him there.
I hang out at the fountain, and it is quite the scene nowadays. If you haven't been down there recently, you should check it out. It's probably a lot more like it was 40 years ago than it has been in a long time. The fountain's really cool place.
A lot of activism.
There have been a lot of like anti-mask protests going on.
I have 2 teenage daughters that hang out there, so they wouldn't be appreciative if I was around the fountain. So when I go there, I stay usually on the western side of the park.
Anyone else want to weigh in
Yeah,
on
I
it?
do the Southwest.
I'm on the bench. I sit with my.
I go where the chess players are, because the playground is right there. So my daughter plays in the playground and I watch the chess players.
And where'd you say, Marnie? You go there?
I'm on the bench, like talking with my friends out and just like viewing what's going on in the park. So.
And Phelan?
And I'm always running around chasing my daughter and whatever friends we've brought to the park. So I'm all over the place.
By the way, Washington Square Park is not in our district.
Right on
It's not.
No.
Steve, there was a reason I changed the wording on my first question, but that's okay. It's a nice place. One question that your district is definitely involved in that I would like to ask is, what is your favorite movie set in New York?
Movie set in New York?
Yes.
I have a tie between Midnight Cowboy and Dog Day Afternoon.
Got to be When Harry Met Sally.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I was gonna
That's
say.
what I was gonna say.
I was gonna say big, all the Tom Hanks ones, big, Daryl Hannah, the whole thing, Splash.
I would say mine's probably Annie Hall.
Geez, that's a hard one. I mean, my teenage self would say The Breakfast Club. I don't know why that just came back to me.
Breakfast Club. I thought weren't they in Michigan? Isn't that where the high school was?
I'm sorry, my internet is not great. I'm
movie set in New York.
Oh, Taxi Driver.
Ooh.
Good
Or
answer.
Once Upon a Time in America.
It's another good one.
Marnie, do you have any?
Oh, When Harry Met Sally.
Oh,
Mm-mm.
Well, since we actually have a couple of minutes to end with, let's go to some closing thoughts. If we have to cut you off, it is only in the interest of time, but we're going to try to give everybody a minute to just speak your piece. And for this, let's just go in alphabetical order, starting with Leslie, then Eric, and so on.
Leslie.
Leslie.
No, who's alphabetical order? It's not Leslie.
Leslie, wait.
Her last name is Murphy.
Bagot.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. My thing.
Never mind.
Oh.
All right,
My turn. I'll do it. My turn.
okay, 1 minute. And
Okay.
then we'll go to Eric and we'll go back into the alphabetical.
Yeah, I want to thank you guys. Thanks for having this forum, and this was actually fun. Phelan, I know what I'm doing on my to-do list. I'm taking you to a Yankees game soon. So that's what we're gonna do. But listen, I have a background as a Emmy award-winning investigative journalist. And I was spending over 20 years traveling around the world to find solutions to hard problems, dealing with business leaders, environmental leaders, scientific leaders, medical leaders, and negotiating with political leaders like Hugo Chavez in Venezuela, Bingu wa Matarika in Africa. And I think this, coupled with my experience here in New York City, my volunteerism, I think it gives me the unique experience to bring people together and find solutions. I am
You
solutions
gotta
oriented.
cut it only because I want everybody to get in. Eric.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, thanks so much for having us tonight. To my fellow candidates, it's great seeing all of you. I want to invite everyone watching to go to ericbotcher.com and to join our campaign. Our campaign is a movement of residents all over Council District 3. We have hundreds of community leaders have endorsed my candidacy, block association presidents, tenant association presidents. We have nearly 900 people have donated to our campaign. We're not taking a dime from real estate developers or corporate lobbyists. We have unions, tenant groups, and we're all united in a determination to see our city succeed. And
Thank you
they're
very much,
supporting-
Phelan. I'm sorry, because it will cut off at 7:30. I want everybody to, Phelan.
I came to New York to build a life, and I've done that. I've spent 16 years building my 3 small businesses in the community. I've built a family, and I've built roots within the district. But, almost a year ago, another life-altering event occurred, and that's COVID-19. Thousands are out of work. The balance of the New York City economy has collapsed. I think in this election, we've got really big questions to answer about who we want to be. What kind of city do we want to live in? Do we want to be a model for climate justice and sustainable development? These are all big questions that we're going to have to answer together.
Thank you very much, Phelan. Marnie,
I'm running because I don't want a city where only developers and hedge fund managers and big tech executives can live. I want a city that can hang on to its diversity, its culture, its public assets. City Council has prioritized luxury development over deeply affordable housing and a social safety net. And that's why we're in crisis. I think we need leaders who take our city's recovery seriously. Thank you.
Alita.
Thank you so much for having us. I just want to remind everyone, I'm the only one here who is born and raised in this district. I am the only one with a child in school. I'm the only one who has lived her entire life in affordable housing. And I know exactly what the district is calling for. And I want to hear your voice.
Thank you, Alita. I'm sorry. Arthur.
I want to say 2 things. One is with respect to Hudson River Park, I forgot to say that I proposed to my wife there. I decided to run for city council because in the middle of the COVID pandemic, I looked around and saw that city government was failing. It wasn't doing anything. Our district was abandoned by its city council member and his staff. Abandoned. They may have given out some masks, they may have given out some meals, but it was abandoned. And that's when I decided to run. I'm a doer, I'm a fighter, I'm an achiever, and I think that I'm the best candidate running for this office.
Thank you very much. Alex, to you.
Wow, 7:30 on the dot. You guys did a wonderful job with that. Thank you everyone for participating, not just in this debate, but in running campaigns in an effort to make New York City a better place. Thank you all so much. For all those in attendance, Steve and I are going to be back on in a half hour for our District 5 debate. Good luck to you all. Thank you so much. And I think we can all agree that the Astros are a bunch of cheaters. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Everybody.
Everybody wave.
Bye.
Oh my
Man
God.
alive.
Pass out.
All right, wait. I got to figure out now questions for the next district. I'll talk to you later.
Okay. All right. I'll see you soon.
Hey, you and me gonna have a couple beers when this whole thing's over, right?
More than a couple beers. I'm going to the hard liquor.
Yeah, I think I am too, man. I'm still at the office. I'm gonna go home and get some bourbon I got at the house.
That sounds very nice.
You know what? You're a journalist like me. I could see you're the kind of guy we go drinking.
Absolutely.
All right, let me figure this out. All right.
You got it. All right. I'll jump back
District 5.
on at 7:50.
All right, District 5 we're looking at, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay.